The movie started with a mother and her son out in the open sea. A man rescued them, and it was clear that they had faced a drowning incident, and the little boy was unconscious. As soon as he woke up, he held his mouth and kept crying because of the ordeal he went through, and then the events flashed back. A little bit to tell the story from the very beginning. It was revealed that her name was Anna, and she worked as a doctor, specializing in natural disaster predictions and artificial intelligence, and she was seen sleeping. Her son woke her up because it was time for his swimming, with her lesson, and he explained that he was training for diving. Right then asking her, "What do you think about taking a 24-hour break from your work to come with me and see me underwater?" Then he covered himself up to prove to her that he could hold his breath for as long as possible, but suddenly she noticed that he had held his breath for too long, so she ordered him not to do that again, especially since he was not in the water. Suddenly she heard the sound of a strong wind vortex in the street, which startled her, and she got up to see what it was. She then discovered that there was extremely heavy rain. She was surprised because something like this was supposed to be known to her since it was her job, yet she had not noticed any signs at all. But regardless, while she was preparing breakfast, Jin asked her if he could take her work laptop to draw on it, so with complete calmness, she asked him why he wanted to draw on it. He replied, "You are the one who is always taking my sketchbook from me." Anna looked at him and felt he was very unfairly treated, and she pitied him because she was not paying attention to him, so she told him where the sketchbook was. The boy was very happy, and then she called her mother, who lived in the same city but in a neighborhood far away, and she was surprised that the rain there was very heavy, so she advised her not to leave the house. She also decided not to go to work, and after she hung up the phone, she was surprised to see the situation escalate as the water reached her apartment, and from the window she saw very high, scary-looking waves, which made Anna tense. Out of anxiety, she found herself getting closer to the window to check if what she was seeing was real or not, even though she was walking in the water that had flooded her apartment. But within seconds, she confirmed what was happening when her son pulled her to hear the security instructions on the loudspeakers, and she heard them. Indeed, as they said, this was the biggest flood they had ever faced in their lives, as the waves reached the second and third floors and were still rising even higher. They warned them that the elevator had broken down and advised the residents to flee to the highest floor of the building via the stairs, and amidst the state of shock that Anna was in, she found Jin insisting on joking and playing, so she scolded him and ordered him to stand on the table because if he stepped down his toy would be lost, and she ran quickly to pack her bag as the water kept rising on the floor, and suddenly she received a phone call from a policeman named Joe telling her that he would come to extract her immediately from the building she was in. But the most important thing was to take her son Jin with her, and just as she was about to ask him the reason for this emphasis, she found the electricity cut off completely and all networks crashed. When she saw that the water started rising higher around her, she decided to leave without her bag, but she was seen taking a box containing many syringes with her son's name written on it, and it was clear that this was treatment specifically for him, and she ran out but did not find him on the table, so she panicked and ran like a madwoman looking for him, and finally she found him hiding in the wardrobe out of extreme fear of her because she yelled at him. So with all eagerness, she apologized to him and explained she was not upset with him or anything. Then she carried him on her back and exited quickly. But she discovered that the world was practically ending and she could not even think how to get to the highest floor, and the state of panic among the residents was increasing every second more than the one before. But Anna cared about nothing except Jin and wanted to save herself for his sake in any way possible, and she continued on her way to the stairs. But when she arrived, she found very many residents, and all of them were not moving from their places, and when she asked them what was wrong, they explained to her that something blocked the way and they could not go up because of it, so she refused to wait like them because she knew the danger of the situation they were in, and she got out from among them quickly and walked a path a bit further away opposite to everyone else to reach the emergency stairs, and it was seen that the disaster had grown to the degree that the contents of the apartment buildings were drowning in the flood. Yet Anna continued and had hope, and when she noticed that Jin saw the people drowning, she tried to comfort him and sing to him, explaining that she intended to play with him today, and that was why she took leave from her work. And while she was talking to him, she stopped for seconds and discovered that she was fooling herself, not him, but she did not show him that and was forced to continue her path. Not only that, but she was also singing and making Jin sing with her until she discovered that even this staircase was blocked at the end, so she was shocked and stood in place. And when Jin asked her, "What is wrong? Is my voice that bad?" she put him down quickly from her back and ordered him not to move from his place, and she wanted to climb onto the railing to clear the stairs, but while she was climbing, her foot slipped and she was about to fall. fall, and she looked down and saw that if she fell, she would not come back again. So she was forced to rethink her plan and look for any path other than it. But there was also a crowd in the middle because of an apartment the flood had not reached, and people saw it as a temporary safe place for them. And then she noticed that the policeman Joe was in the building that was opposite her, so she waved to him and he immediately saw her. And in a second, she did not find Jin next to her, so she entered the apartment, causing the blockage, and looked for him and started searching everywhere until she was shocked by what was before her eyes as the flood increased terribly to the degree that it was on its way to storm the rest floors. And then time froze for her, and she remembered an old accident that happened to her with her husband long ago when they drowned in the open sea while inside their car, and she snapped back to reality at the waves crashing into the house and the whole place drowning. And despite what happened, Anna tried to look for her son still, but at this time the bag containing the treatment was lost from her, and she was torn between her son and the bag. And she opened the doors of the apartment while underwater, and around her were corpses of residents who could not survive. And unfortunately, Jin's body was among them, so she grabbed him quickly and tried to revive him and opened one of the doors just to find any oxygen outlet, but she could not because of the water pressure. And suddenly she was seen giving up and started losing consciousness. But at the last moment, the policeman John appeared and revived her until they reached the surface of the water finally. And at that time, Jin was unconscious. And from here, the scene returned to the opening moment when John was helping Jin to regain his consciousness again. And he actually woke up, but he was terrified of what he saw and collapsed in tears from extreme fear. And she also kept holding on to him and collapsed with him. And during their breakdown, Joe acted like a robot, recording a report that he managed to save Dr. Anna and her son Jin, saying that they had to move immediately to reach the roof of the building where helicopters would come to take them. And he pulled Jin very cruelly from her to carry him faster, but Jin kept clinging to his mother and holding her with his hands and teeth. Then Anna asked him to let her carry him and assured him, I will be fast, I promise, do not worry. And indeed, she carried Jin on her back and ran behind the policeman Joe, and she asked her son, "What was it, Jin, that made you move away from me?" He answered her crying, "I thought you left me, so I went in to look for you in the apartment." And when she explained that she would never leave without him, he told her what happened and the horror he saw, saying while collapsing, "When I entered, I found the water suddenly became too much and I was inside it, and I remembered the accident that happened a few years ago. Surely you remember, Mom, when the car fell with us into the water." When she tried to change the subject and asked him to sing, he replied very politely, "No, my mood does not allow it at all." And while she was going up behind the policeman, she hinted to him that she noticed the water was salty, so it was impossible to be rain. And at that time he answered her and explained that an asteroid hit the Antarctic continent exactly 3 hours ago, and this caused the ice to melt while on its way north, and it mixed with the seawater. That was why the water was salty. And he warned her that half of Japan had drowned. And when Anna was surprised and said to him, "What asteroid is this? How did experts not know something like this at all?" He explained to her that they probably knew but were maintaining silence or could not prepare for reasons no one knew. And all at once he dropped the surprise on her that this was practically the end of the world and the human race would go extinct completely. And then Anna was shocked more and asked him, meaning what? Will there be no humans nor any existence for them at all? Then he replied to her that they saved her because her mission was creating the new human race. And from here it was understood that Anna worked on a program for developing human emotions, meaning she could add emotions into any being, whether it was a living being or not. And that was why they were holding on to her. And during his talk with her, he looked at Jin, but Jin was afraid, so he hid his face. And it was clear that there was still a mysterious thing in Anna's relationship with her son Jin, and we will know it later. But the important thing now was that Joe reminded her that only she and her manager were the ones who could do something like this through artificial intelligence. And he told her that her manager had disappeared, and they did not know how to reach her, and that was why she was now the hope. And he continued speaking and shocked her that they had made bodies exactly similar to humans, but not just a model. This was also capable of reproduction, missing only her program to insert emotions inside them and then develop them according to what they chose. When he found her surprised and unable to gather all this information at once, he cut his words short and assured her, "In the company, you will know everything," and he continued his way on the stairs. She ran behind him nervously and tried to explain to him that this program was just a test, and it did not mean, if it succeeded once, that they should rely on it to create life. And she assured him that she could not continue without her manager because she had many secrets for the program that she did not know. So then he looked back at her and asked her, "What? Should I cancel the helicopter coming to take you then?" And at the same moment, Jin stopped her, asking her to go to the bathroom. And at that time, Joe told her, "Let him wait until we enter any apartment that is intact." So she carried him on her back again and walked behind Joe, and they were indeed able to find an apartment. While our heroine was in the bathroom with her son, Joe spoke on the phone with someone from the lab and said to him, "Why should I do that? The woman is cooperative here without any violence." And he took out the gun from his pocket and cocked it, and it appeared he was hiding something from her and had not stated the main purpose of their presence. And this is what we will know later. But the important thing is that at the current time, Anna came out and found Joe surprised, that the bosses were determined to implant emotions in the new species they would create. And when Anna asked him, "What is the problem with emotions?" he told her the situation that would happen when they went up to the roof of the building, and said to her, "When we go up, you will find people begging you to save one of them, but you will be selfish and save only yourself, or you will sacrifice yourself for one of them, and in both cases, you are wrong." At that time, she felt that he was not hugged when he was young, and she told him that she wanted to make a call. She called her mother to check on her and found at her place the sound of people screaming, asking for help, and the mother asked her to take care of herself, saying the matter was every now and then. Just some water, nothing more in her apartment, and with a tone of blame. She warned her that the time had passed for her to care about her family, saying, "Right now, the most important thing is to see your work going well." And despite what she said, Anna tried to reassure her that the rain was about to end. "Did you forget that? This is my job, or what?" And all at once, she heard the sound of glass breaking, and practically the flood destroyed the house, and the line was cut immediately, so she knew she had become one of the victims. Then Joe came to her and sarcastically told her, "Good that I do not have anyone to check on." All at once, they noticed a sound coming from the gas pipes, and the pipes were shivering, so they escaped with maximum speed they had, and before they reached the first direction they were heading to, it exploded in front of them, so they changed their direction again, but also an explosion happened, and when they were surrounded by fire around them from every place, there was no solution except to jump from the railing to the floor above them, and Joe went up first, and when Anna prepared, she stood looking in front of her while hugging her son who refused to leave her, and she did not know how she would go up with him at all, and she lifted him to Joe to take him from her, but because of Jin clinging to her, he kept moving a lot because he did not want to leave her, so against his will, she fell because of him into the water. At that time, she remembered the time of her old accident, and in the present, she was able to come up to the water surface quickly, and waved to Jin to reassure him that she would come up to him, and she swam until she reached the first floor. The water connected her to, and then she heard a screaming sound and a child calling for help, so she ran to save him and tried to open the door, and went quickly to get any tool in front of her. When she did not find any, she returned again, and all at once, the waves hit her, and then she remembered the time of her accident when she wanted to save her husband and son, but her husband remained insistent that her son was more important and made her save their son only and get him out. And in the present, she came up again to the water surface after she failed to save the one who was calling for help a little while ago because the water took her far away from him, and she went up finally to her son and found him thrown on the ground and shivering because he had a diabetic attack. And unfortunately, the treatment bag was lost from her as we saw, so she ran to look for any apartment still intact to find anything in it to help her, and indeed she entered an apartment where two elderly people were present, so she apologized to them and brought a box of juice and added a lot of sugar and made Jin drink it. And for the first time, Anna felt she was really afraid for Jin, and she went back in her memory, and we saw her with her manager whom Joe spoke about, and we were shocked then when we found Anna asking her that she wanted to leave Jin, feeling she could not be responsible for him. And the strange thing was the manager replied with utmost coldness and without any surprise and said, "Anyway, the lab will retrieve him from you again, him and my daughter." From here we understood Joe's mysterious looks at Jin when they were on the stairs, and we knew that Anna and her manager manufactured their children themselves, and this was the experiment, the first one that Anna tried, and at that time the manager told her that she regretted it because the first time she tried it was on them because they and the children became very attached to each other, but unfortunately the lab had to retrieve them again. We returned again to the present while she was looking at Jin after. He woke up and apologized to her with all innocence that he peed on himself. Then Anna laughed with him and told him good to keep warm, so he asked her to take him in her arms, and when she did that, he told her, "Today I fell in the water and I was going to die, but I am very happy because I am spending all this with you." So she took him in her arms while she was very affected, and within minutes, she found the sun started to come out again and the rain stopped, and she thought that finally things returned to normal. But when Joe entered to her, he explained to her that this was called a temporary sunrise, something like a truce, and explained to her that the plane was close to coming and they would take her alone without Jin because he would return to their custody again. And he hinted to her that he came to her specifically not just for the sake of this project. He was interested to see if she would agree, basically, or not, because he expected that she would agree to abandon Jin easily, and told her that his mother also abandoned him long ago, or meaning the woman who was supposed to be his mother. And that was why we understood why he wanted the categories that he would create to be without emotions, because many times they destroy the human, and within seconds the weather returned to its previous state and turned upside down. Even Joe himself got startled, as he did not imagine that it would be this fast, and they ran as fast as they could, and the two elderly people were sitting together, surrendering their fate. And while our heroine was on her way, she found a woman giving birth, and she wanted to help her, but Joe warned that there was no time, so she walked away while devastated. And then Jin asked her if she was in pain like that when she gave birth to him. She broke down even more and put him down from her back, so he would be quiet, and she sat on the ground and kept crying and went. Joe came to warn her that it was too late. She pushed his hands away from them and begged him not to make her leave her son, and then he tried to reassure her that he would support her position and let Jin travel with her. They finally arrived at the place they wanted, and Anna was surprised by Joe recording a video of her and stating the declaration that he had already executed the mission required of him and would hand them Jin, and within seconds they pulled Jin from her hands and they all grabbed him to restrain him, and no matter how much she tried to stop them, she could not overpower them, so she ran. After Joe and reminded him of when he assured her that he would help her and let her take him with her, then Joe laughed at her sarcastically and said to her, "Surely I was lying to you. Someone like you decided to abandon her son long ago. Suddenly love struck her heart like that. If you loved him, you would have escaped with him just like your manager escaped with her daughter, but you chose to wait knowing full well." And all this while Anna was collapsed, and she found them, pushing her away from Jin and injecting the syringe into his neck to make him sleep, and they shaved his hair to return him to his natural place in the lab and copy from him. So Anna fell to her knees and begged the boss to leave him, and she showed how regretful she was that she created her son, and she proposed to him that they wait for her to make another one, better than him, and insert the emotion developer inside it. But he told her that they would not wait other years, for sure, and during this breakdown of hers, she heard the sound of gunfire, and when she looked, she found them finishing Joe off. At that time, the boss warned her that only they were the ones who would remain alive and the rest would not, so she left him and went to take a final look at her son after they shaved his hair. She was shocked and hugged him and apologized to him, and they started opening his head while she heard the sound of the device, and she left them and walked away, boarded the plane, and held the diving goggles, while silent, and suddenly the missiles were seen, launching after the planet was completely destroyed. A person whose face was not visible communicated with her, but he introduced himself and told her that his name was Sue, and explained to her that they were now heading to a lab named Isabella, and they needed to manufacture other copies of humans for life to continue. And he pointed out to her that this time they would create the mother and the child to reproduce faster. So Anna tried to give him a new idea and explained to him that they must implant the instinct of motherhood inside the mother, and this would make her do everything in her power. She and her son would live and life would continue, not just feelings of love only remaining inside her. And she proposed that the new experiment be on the mother, and that they must make her be the one searching for her son and looking for him, and place many obstacles in front of her to test the real emotions. And as soon as she succeeded in finding him after many trials, they would copy these emotions into all copies, and thus they would have implanted the survival instinct in them. And in a second, the place they were in exploded, and all at once we found ourselves back at the same beginning again, while Anna was sleeping and Jin was waking her, as if we moved with him to another time. But this time, the events were more visible, and Anna was able to change their details, and her t-shirt had a specific number written on it like a serial, and Anna thought herself to have been dreaming, meaning, for example, she woke up immediately to the water filling the house, and her son told her that he dreamt of things similar to this situation and wanted her to see the drawing he drew, and when she refused, he informed her he would send it to her mobile, unlike the last time when he still wanted to draw. But the important thing was that he was jumping around because he was happy with the water that became like a swimming pool around him. And she received the same phone call from the policeman, Joe, but she was not yet aware of what was happening until she remembered her manager telling her, with tears in her eyes, that the lab would retrieve the children again, and again Jin hid in the wardrobe. But this time he asked her, "Why am I not growing? Why do days and months pass and I am just as I am 6 years old?" It seemed that even Jin started to realize, but she did not care, and all she wanted was to manage to escape with him. So she carried him quickly and escaped, and the same state of panic among the residents and the stairs that were broken without reason, and the emergency stairs that were very crowded. But what she changed was that this time when she found the policeman Joe, she hid herself from him, and in a moment the waves hit the building and it exploded with water. She and Jin were practically drowning, but she was able to save him, and when she went up after him she did not find him, so she ran to look for him, but on her way, she glimpsed him falling again. So she went down to save him, and amidst attempts to catch him, the surge of the wave was very high and pulled him quickly far away, and she could not find him. And she remembered what she lived a little while ago when she was in the plane and was surprised that his diving goggles were actually with her, meaning what she was in was not a dream. And all at once, we found a drowning car approaching her, and an explosion happened with a halo containing sparks. And suddenly, we saw Joe reviving her, but the number on her t-shirt was different from the number we saw a little while ago at all, and Joe told her the same words and that they should go up to the building's roof, and went. She refused and told him, "My son is drowning, I must save him." He proved to her that he did not drown and showed her a picture on his mobile and confirmed that he was on his way to the building's roof. But she did not trust his words at all and decided to search for him herself. And on her way, Joe kept walking behind her, assuring her that they would find him on the building's roof and their men would take care of him. But she told him, "Impossible. My son could not go to a place without me. I know him well." And when he tried to stop her, she was able to pull the gun from him and threatened him that if he did not back away, she would shoot him with it. And indeed, she fired a shot in the air to scare him, and from afar, gas explosions were happening. And Joe kept begging her to believe him and leave from here. But she remained determined to know what happened to her son. And the explosion was getting closer every little while until it hit her, and the same car explosion happened that we saw a little while ago with the same spark halo. And this time we found her hanging, and the number on her t-shirt was different from the two numbers that passed. And the strange thing was that Joe was completely normal and convincing her that they would find Jin. So she threatened him that if he touched her son, she would finish him off, and she slipped her hand from his hand and threw herself. But she found him looking at her, him and Jin, like the very first time. And he told her, "Come on, come up." So she entered the building indeed and heard the voice of the same child who was calling her for help in the beginning. But this time our heroine insisted that she would not leave until she helped her. But she lost consciousness in the water, and suddenly she woke up again, and the number on her t-shirt was also changed, and she continued what she was doing, and she was indeed able to save her and open the door and took the girl and went up with her. And she tried to make her wear anything from the first apartment opposite her, and during Anna's talk with her, she informed her that her grandfather and grandmother were waiting for her in the apartment and asked her if she found her son Jin to tell him that his mother was looking for him and loved him very much because in a little while she might die. So the girl was very surprised how she knew at all that she belonged to the grandfather and grandmother, and at that time Anna herself did not understand and told her, "Believe me, I do not know." And she was surprised when the girl told her that she heard two men agreeing to go up to an apartment and talking about their kidnapping of a child, so she was certain it was Jin. And this time the number on the t-shirt was changed, and suddenly she found herself being dragged on the ground. But this was an imagination from her of what might happen to her if she attacked them alone, so she decided to take any sharp tool to defend herself with, and she found two young men opposite her doing to her the same thing that was in her imagination exactly. And all this because she was looking for her son Jin, who suddenly disappeared. And in a second she started fading away again with the same traces of the explosion that we see every time, and she was with a new number while she was still defending herself until Joe entered on her and saved her from them and told her that Jin was hiding and no one kidnapped him. And he asked her where he might be, for example, but she was confused and assured him that she did not know. And she looked at the ground and remembered when she was making him drink the juice at the time of the diabetic attack, and she kept moving from one place to another, and the vision from afar was clear as if they were TV screens. But the common thing in them was that it was from the same halo of sparks that appeared when she transitioned and the number of her t-shirt changed. And the strange thing was that the grandmother gave her the juice because Jin would need it. So Anna approached the child and asked her to come with her, but she refused and decided to live what was left for her with her grandfather and grandmother. So Anna left them and went out to search for her son, and Joe walked behind her and warned her that her son left by his own will, and asked her what could make the child do that to his mother. And without explaining, he wanted to take out his psychological complexes on her. And from right here, we started to understand the meaning of all these events that were repeating and why. Always, every situation Anna transitioned into was with the same spark halo. And we knew that this was the experiment of hers, the maternal instinct experiment that she wanted to conduct when she was explaining to Sue that she would implant in the mother feelings of maternal instinct and lose her son from her and place obstacles for her to find him. And we understood that the changing t-shirt number was the experiments that she entered every little while to find her son. And she started begging Joe to help her and divide the apartments they would search in, so he would take the odd numbers and she the even ones. And although Joe was surprised how he agreed with her. He told her, "I do not know why. I feel that you are truthful this time." And while he was leaving her, the t-shirt number changed, and this meant that this was a new experiment, and she heard the screaming sound of the woman who was giving birth in the beginning, and this time she had already given birth. And she heard a woman saying that she dreamt she would give birth in a tsunami, and told her husband, surely this was a prophecy. And she remembered Jin when he was telling her that he dreamt of what was happening and drew it and wanted her to see his drawing, but she yelled at him. But at that time, he told her that he sent her this drawing on the mobile. So she held her phone and found he had sent her very many copies of the same drawing, and it consisted of her face while she was standing with the helicopter behind her. And unfortunately, this was the same scene she said goodbye to him in before. That, and she remembered the time when she was saying goodbye to him, and suddenly all the moments that were between them in the experiments passed. Before her, and indeed they were repeating, but the end of all of them, was finding him in the wardrobe, and she thought that it was the wardrobe of her apartment. And the surprise was that it would turn out to be a wardrobe, completely different. And this is what we will know in a little while. Anyway, Anna went to the house and approached the wardrobe, and when she opened it, she did not find him, and was surprised by security men attacking her. And this experiment faded, and she continued in a new experiment, and she woke up in front of Joe and tried to explain to him and make him understand that these people with him would finish him off in the end. And she asked him if he did not remember, and indeed, Joe did not remember, but she jogged his memory again and dug with her words into his mind. And the number on the t-shirt, as usual, was a new number, and suddenly Joe was convinced and was able to finish off all those present alone, and injected her with a substance that made her regain her full consciousness in a second. And he insisted on knowing from her what was happening, especially since he remembered his situation while they were finishing off on him. So she explained everything to him and her whole project idea about the survival instinct, and she told him, every time I try to reach Jin, security stands in my way, and every time they get rid of you. And indeed, this was what we saw. While she was escaping with the weapon, and the number on her t-shirt was completely different, meaning that the experiment was conducted thousands of times, and every time she was telling Joe, and he cooperated with her like now. But this time, the matter was different, because they were not starting from the beginning, they were starting from a point where they stopped. And this was a different evolution in the experiment. And she explained to him that indeed, Jin was the one who wanted to leave her because he imagined she abandoned him. But the important thing was that he continued with her indeed as he started, and they confronted very many security men. And finally she found Jin in the wardrobe, but the wardrobe on the building's roof, and he was unconscious. So she gave him the juice, hoping he would wake up, but unfortunately Jin did not wake up, and Anna collapsed and said she loved him very much and kept searching for him the whole time. And she assured him that without implanting inside her any instinct, she was desperate for just one look from him. But she was surprised that he woke up, and assured her that she did not abandon him, and she was the one who told him to wait for her in that specific wardrobe. He did not run away, and she remembered the time when they took him from her, and she went to hug him, and was at that time saying, your mother loves you, and asking him to hide in this wardrobe and not come out until she came to him. And we understood that at that time Anna had decided to manipulate the whole lab and its boss too, so she could in the end reach Jin and escape with him. And she was the one who deluded them with the idea of the survival instinct to return in time with Jin again and be able to take him. And when the place they were in had the explosion, it was because a meteor hit them, but she remained alive and decided that the experiment would be on her, and insisted on this. And they indeed took her to the spaceship and transferred from her memory data of memories. And that was why in every time she tried, she had forgotten what she agreed with Jin on, and we found her looking at him, and the looks of the two at each other had great love. But cutting this moment were the security men who arrived suddenly, so she gave her son his diving goggles, and the security men took her. Then she warned him to wear the diving goggles, and at the top of her voice told him, come on now, the dive that we practiced, me and you, I want you to apply it here. And the flood was growing, and indeed it was a great flood named after the movie. And Jin heard his mother's words and jumped by himself into the water. And at that time the whole scene froze, and Anna started remembering his moments with her from the moment she created him, and the first time he said the name Mama, and the time of her husband's death, and how much he stood by her side, and she was the only one who could exit. The experiment after the scene froze with them all, with the same spark halo that appeared in every experiment. And she went down into the water to search for him, and kept calling at the top of her voice and running in the water, despite the difficulty of the wave. But she kept going after him until she found him and hugged him, and suddenly the wave rose higher until practically everything faded away, including Anna and Jin. And suddenly we found Jin calling for Anna, who woke up again while she was still hugging her son in her new and permanent experiment. And the different thing was that this time planet Earth returned again and was not destroyed, meaning life was still continuing. And just like that, our video ends. Goodbye. My friends,